Could have ran into something, some beds are
Yeah,
shaped funny.
Juwan Jennings in the red zone. Yeah. So anyway, we'll wait, but we are not holding our breath on that. 49ers and Bears, what it brings us, John, is a classic old rivalry of days gone by of Justin Fields versus Trey Lance, which is not just a Trey Lance rivalry. It's also a Kyle Shanahan rivalry because I think it's been well established how much Kyle had to be, quote unquote, talked into Trey. We could have that debate. No one knows.
Well, Michael Lombardi won't let that go, and people keep saying he's wrong.
I know. But one thing I think that is not debatable, because Kyle has said it. He said it to the Brandon Marshall guys. I was choosing between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. That's what we were watching. So it was never about Justin Fields for Kyle Shanahan, ever.
Do you think there is a chance, if he is got some percentage frustration in just how ready he thought Trey was going to be, and just knowing that he knew Mac Jones was ready to go, when you see Michael Lombardi say that he still is frustrated about it and lets it be known, listen, the people I know within the 49ers, they would never admit that to me unless we were super wasted, and even then, I don't even know. But do you think that's something that is even possible? I mean, we all know it's possible, but do you think it's plausible? Like, would you bet on there's been moments of frustration where either he's let it be known or it's pretty clear, like, God, don't get stay around away from Kyle today?
I think it would be, even for a guy that owns the whole organization, basically, is in charge of everything, a pretty high level of unprofessionalism, if that's a word. I mean, that would be, you talk about the amount of frustration you'd have to feel to be at that level, to undermine your own team and your own quarterback in that way, even if it's in a closed room, right? Even if it's you and John Lynch. But if it's him and John Lynch, that's not getting to anybody.
To me, there's a difference in like tongue in cheek, like Mac would have made that throw, and like legitimately being mad about it some days during the week consistently.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, is it plausible to have that thought? It is so plausible to have that thought.
Which is something every coach and every general manager has, right?
It's very human. Is it human to say to John Lynch, like Adam Peters, to his OC, like, man, I hope we got the right guy? Absolutely. That is plausible. But you're asking, like, to be internally angry about being forced, quote unquote.
Forced, I think forced is not possible.
Okay.
Pressured.
Yeah, whatever.
And being clearly kind of leaned on, which, like I've said over and over, it would have been the most insane draft pick in the history of the league when you factor in the position. Like,
you called it the most arrogant draft pick in the league if they had done it.
Absolutely batshit crazy. Because he ended up still going 15, where a lot of people think that was too high. So he not only didn't go 4 through 4, like he went 15. So he fell dramatically far. And like, you see, I think since someone tweeted at us or someone linked me in a tweet, like the numbers of Tua and Mac, maybe they Instagrammed to us, they're like identical. It's like everyone needs to pump the brakes on McCorkle, who again, good kid, but Jesus Christ, I don't think he'll ever be as good as Kirk Cousins.
Fields, on the other hand, is, there's a lot of optimism in Chicago about him.
Do you remember the play he made last year in the Niner game, running around?
The play was over. It was kind of like the Anthony Richardson. It wasn't the same as the Anthony Richardson play, but it was one of those, this play's over, tough for the quarterback, and then he makes a play that, he just sees something that nobody else sees.
Didn't he run back across his body, make the touchdown throw?
Yeah.
It was sweet.
It was very sweet. Yeah. I mean, here's a guy, I was thinking about Trey Lance in this context because, there are all these questions about how good is he? And we're all about to find out over the course of who knows how much time. But I do wonder if part of it, I watched him talk in press conferences. We've watched him practice. We've watched him play. We've watched a lot of what he's done. And he's done a lot of media. And I don't think how you handle media is, it's not a big part of the pie of how good of a player you're going to be. But I do think just watching a person talk can give you insight into that person. And when I watch him talk right now, those are media chances, right? And he definitely looks to me like most young guys look. He does not want to say something stupid when he's doing a press conference, when he's doing an interview. I don't think he's 100% comfortable with all that stuff. And I think he does a really good job with it. Like, I think he's pretty comfortable. I think he's insightful, but I don't think he's 100% comfortable. And I would imagine if I were in his shoes, if most of us were in his shoes, I think there'd be a part of it where you think, I haven't even done any of this stuff yet. I definitely don't want to be talking about it. I just want to go do it. And I think probably there's a part of it with Trey where he's got to prove some of this stuff to himself, right? Like, I was thinking about Steph Curry, and the odds that anybody becomes Steph Curry are very low. He's an all-time great player. But Trey Lance was drafted to be the 49ers Steph Curry, to be the centerpiece of their franchise, to be their playmaker, to be their point guard for a long time. You think about Steph, and there are a lot of people that didn't believe in Steph when he came into the league, right? He was coming from Gonzaga. He was small, 2 point guards.
Rick Bucher, Matt Steinmetz.
Albeit, what was the deal with those two?
I just feel like those are guys that get lumped in.
They were definitely talking about him. But I went back and looked at Steph. Like, what Steph had proven to himself was a lot. Steph scored 40 against Gonzaga, 30 against Georgetown, 33 against Wisconsin, 25 against Kansas, all in the 2008 NCAA tournament. That's just one tournament. The 08 Kansas team was the Mario Chalmers team that went on and won the NCAA championship.
So they lost to that team in the Elite Eight.
They lost to that team, and that team went and beat Memphis and Derrick Rose.
He had one of the great NCAA tournaments of all time for a team that made it to the Elite Eight, right?
The funny thing is they went to the NIT the next year. But that year, he had 44 at Oklahoma. He had 44 against NC State. He had 27 against West Virginia. He had 29 at Cameron Indoor. You go back to his freshman year, he played at Duke 3 times his career. His freshman year, he dropped 32 at Michigan in his second career game. And then in his tournament debut as a true freshman at Davidson, had 30 against Maryland.
They win?
They lost that game. So he played 1 game in the tournament that year, came back, played 4 games, and then remember they moved him to point guard, kind of helped Steph develop his junior year, and they went to the NIT.
Are you saying that the NBA scouts might have overthought the Steph thing?
And still he went really high, right? Still
7. If they could do a redo, I think he goes 1.
Yeah, if you could do a redo, he'd go 1. And I'm not, I know any comparison to Steph, but my point is Steph was a small school guy who had all these reasons to believe in him. He had just proven all this stuff to himself. And I wonder if part of Trey is like, you guys are asking me, I just want to go prove it to you. I want to prove it to myself. Like, I belong. I see a guy who's still got to go out there and prove that he belongs. The captain voting tells us that. That's normal. None of this is a criticism of Trey. But I think part of the season is about proving it to Kyle, proving it to, he doesn't necessarily need to prove it to us or the fans. That's not what he's doing it for, but proving it to his teammates. And to some degree, probably proving it to himself that he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best part once the season get here. We don't have to talk anymore about percentages in practice. We don't have to talk anymore about good days, bad days. What do they mean? Because ultimately, in my opinion, they don't mean actually anything. I mean, they do at that given moment, but if you go out, and this is the best part about the NFL, and I would just say sports in general, in any business, like whether we double our revenue this year or whether we lost money and we could be like, well, it's a weird year, recession kicked in, and, people pulled their marketing budgets. There's no like, did we win or did we lose? Or did we just, chalk it up? There was, the COVID happened, less people were listening to stuff, or COVID happened, more people were listening to stuff, or whatever. Any business, like you kind of just pick an arbitrary numbers. The sports is the one industry where it's like black and white. Some teams make more money than others, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Like the Cowboys make dramatically more money than the Bengals, right? Dramatically more. The Bengals literally had to sell Paul Brown Stadium, and they've basically admitted, like, we need cash flow for our quarterback that we're going to have to pay next year, right? We don't potentially have the cash on hand. That extra $50 million over the next 2 years will dramatically help us to cut a check. They're basically just taking that cash. It's like if you're just like saving for a down payment of a house, every time you get a certain amount of money, you put it in there. That's exactly what the Bengals are doing. Yet they were in the fucking Super Bowl. Jerry Jones, could you imagine the check he would have written to be in the Super Bowl last year? Because that's all that matters in this. Like ultimately how much money Jed made or now, no one cares. I mean, no one gave a shit that Jed had never been richer in 2021. Why? Because the Niners went, 6-10. And it was.
Yeah, but did you see the investment in the soccer team?
Yeah, it was a debacle. Do you know when talking about leads becomes cool? When Kyle Shanahan and the Niners are kicking ass. It's why the Bears, they're under a lot of heat. It's why Belichick, like, is he going to win this year? The only thing that matters in this league specifically, because I was thinking this today, it kind of hit me. The training camp, once it starts, if you're in the league, even for reporters or whatever, it's every day. It's kind of a grind. But like, there's just the preseason games. They ultimately don't matter. Like coaches, you see some of the clips of coaches after preseason games. They're really not. They're really addressing more like the undrafted free agents. Like, you guys got to take advantage of this opportunity. They're never talking about the score. It just doesn't matter. And it's weird in a league where everything is about like who won and who lost at the end of the game, right? I mean, That's all that mattered. Like the only thing that mattered in that crazy ass LSU Florida State is that Florida State somehow blocked that kick and they won the game. Even though you're like, is Florida State that good? They go to the locker room, they're the winner, and LSU's in shambles. And to me, that's what's weird about Trey Lance, because I saw someone on Twitter today that like Jimmy's stats when they were 8-0, they weren't that great. And the Niners passing offense wasn't that great. But the Niners were 8-0, and they had been shitty for so long, and no one gave a crap. No one cares. And that to me is like the only thing that matters. Like, think about this. The only one who kind of is mad that he didn't truly get to shine, even though he became really famous, when Seattle won the Super Bowl, was Russell Wilson. Like, Russell Wilson, like, I wish I could have passed more. No one else, no fan, no other player on the team, no coaching staff. They won the Super Bowl. And Russell's like, I wish I would have thrown more touchdowns. It was the only guy even thinking that. Now,
and
at
think
the
about
time,
it,
maybe he
John,
wasn't. But
and think about it. He became a superstar just by winning. Now, he became a great quarterback. But it was enough. Like
he became famous because immediately when they won, no one was like, well, have you seen Russell? He's not even throwing 30 touchdowns. No one cared.
He was also fun to watch, it turned out.
He was. And that there is a double whammy, right? Part of the reason Mahomes is famous, not just because the Chiefs are winning consistently, it's because you watch him, he's remarkable, right? Josh Allen is more than just, the Bills have been good the last several years, but the eyes don't lie, right? Now, you can become pretty famous. Herbert hasn't won shit, and he's become everyone, rightfully so. But as long as Trey wins, as long as he's a starting quarterback for a winning team, everything will take care of itself.